everybody. Welcome to Dim Lights Horror, the podcast that tells classic and modern stories from around the world for you to hear. Now please, take a seat, dim your lights, and join me in today's story. By Reddit user, I'm Just Weird 627. My drawings are coming to life. Ever since I can remember, I've had a passion for drawing. The freedom you have while your imagination guides you. I love it all. I'll draw anything. Buildings and vehicles, all the way to my own characters I made up. My favorite character of mine is a being from another dimension. I have about 5 pictures of him plastered along my walls. This 7-foot being, red eyes, long nails. I love him. In my vision, he's the perfect character for whatever storyline I make in my head. Anyway, it all began one day after school. I sat in my class sketching away in my book, making new characters, all with their own unique look. Once I arrived home, I walked to the living room to find my parents arguing. It was something about my mom finding texts from my dad to another woman. In a moment of anger, my father blamed me, saying I was supposed to be the glue that held the family together, but I failed as a son. I never felt more empty. My own father, saying these things about me, how could he? He turned to me after he heard my school bag hit the floor. "David, I didn't mean it. I'm sorry." I didn't care what he had to say. I stormed upstairs to my room and locked my door. Curled up in my bed, just letting it all out. I must have cried for a solid hour. I haven't cried in a long time, but nothing ever hurts me this much. He was my father, right? Am I a failure? Suddenly, out of nowhere, I heard this voice. It was deep and had some echoey tone to it, almost demonic. It sounded so familiar, but at the same time I knew I had never heard it before, at least not in real life. I rolled over to look in the corner of my room. My heart skipped a beat. I almost forgot how to breathe. In the corner of my room was this black mist. It seemed to be expanding, sticking to the walls, ceiling, and my floor. But that wasn't what was scaring me. The thing that made my skin crawl was the silhouette of something. 7 feet tall, long nails, red eyes. It seemed to move closer and closer with its growing red eyes, piercing through the mist. This shouldn't be possible. I made him up. He was a drawing. How is he there? I let out a scream and hid under my blanket. Suddenly my father kicked down my door, asking what was wrong as he sat on the bed and put his arm around me. I looked back up and it was gone. The thing that was just inches away from me was just gone, as if it was never here. He was just there. I saw him, I swear. My father looked at me like I was crazy. "Who's there, son?" he replied. I don't know. My words got caught in my throat and I was in disbelief. I spent the rest of my night in my brother's room, who was away on a school camping trip for the week. As I awoken, with the trees outside hitting against the window, I thought maybe if I closed the window, maybe the tree branch wouldn't reach. So as I got up and went and closed the window, I froze again. In the reflection, through the wardrobe, those glowing eyes. I turned, and this time, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't scream. The wardrobe door opened, and sure enough, this thing floated out. The mist once again consuming the room. It spoke to me. You are the boy who summoned me. The echoey tone sent shivers down my spine, but strangely, at the same time, was comforting. Feeling terrified of it, I also felt a strong sense of comfort and security in its presence. I built up the courage to talk. What's your name? How are you here? I wasn't expecting an answer, but sure enough, I got one. I have no name. You are my creator. I am here because deep down, you wanted me here. You needed me here. Since you are my creator, you are capable of any changes made to me. Should I give it a name? No. I should figure out what's going wrong with me. I'm going crazy. Ignitus. Your name is Ignitus. It's Latin for unknown. I learned that in history class. The same class I first drew him and came up with the idea of him. And without any warning, he just disappeared again. I spent the rest of the night curled up in a ball, rocking back and forth. The next day I spent almost all of my time drawing again. I made changes to him, gave him more human-like features, gave him clothes. What was once a black silhouette with glowing red eyes was now a friendly guy. At least I thought that's what he looked like. See, since he's my creation, using my imagination, every change I make is only visible to me. Other people still see him, but they can only see him in the original form I drew him in. I could see a regular guy, but others would see a 7-foot-tall demonic creature. Over the next month, he started visiting me more frequently. I learned more about him. He told me what his life was like, and he told me that his life was just being on paper, unable to move but conscious at the same time. If it was like that for him, what's stopping it from being the case of my other drawings? One night, my father woke me up and rushed me outside. My mother was already there crying. I turned, and the house was on fire. In one of the windows, there he was, staring at me. He lifted his hand and just waved. The mist surrounded him, and just like that, it all vanished. No more mist. A piece of paper floated down. Most of it was burnt, but I recognized it as my first drawing of him. I flipped it around, and there was only one word. Ignitus. I never saw him again until years later. By this time I was an adult. I had my own house, wife, kids. I had a good job. I was living my best life. My daughter rushed to my room, saying the dog ran away after she accidentally left the back door open. I put my shoes on and rushed outside. The back garden led to a big forest, which connected all the houses together. I had to bring a flashlight because of all the fog. You could barely see 2 feet in front of you. I couldn't lose my dog. He was my best friend. I heard him bark from behind me. I turned and was met with 2 glowing red eyes attached to a silhouette of a 7-foot being. "Hello, old friend," he said as his voice echoed through the mist. Thank you all for listening. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe and leave a comment. I value your feedback. And if you're listening on Spotify, click the follow button to hear more stories from Dim Lights Horror. Good night, everyone.